is the podcast host of Executive Connect, redefining what it means to lead, and of course, modern Renaissance woman, no other than Miss Melissa Aarskaug.
Hello, thank you for having me, Daniel.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Melissa. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Melissa Aarskaug. I currently work in the casino gaming industry, focusing on cybersecurity and technology services. I'm also the founder of the Executive Connect podcast, as you mentioned, and I am the co-author of an upcoming book called Renaissance: Redefining Success for a Modern Maverick.
Interesting, Miss Melissa, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more, wow, empowering books to come for sure. And today, let's talk about Renaissance woman reinventing leadership on your own terms. How do you define Renaissance woman leader in today's world, and how this differ from traditional leadership archetypes?
Yeah, absolutely. We unpack that in the upcoming book. I think it first starts with understanding ourselves, understanding the Renaissance within each and every one of us. We all have something that we're gifted in, and really bringing out and bringing that to the surface to find the modern maverick within inside each and every one of us. So we define success on the inside first, and then put it into the world through resilience and
Here's the
action.
Executive Connect podcast, hosted by me,
Yes,
Melissa
I think
Aarskaug,
we're
connecting you
having
to leadership that
our.
moves the needle. Why?
Yes,
To
go ahead.
fuel the next
Went to
generation
your
of leaders,
website and I think it's
executives,
automatically
founders, and risers
just
like you.
muted. Sorry for that. Go ahead, Miss Melissa.
Yeah, no worries. And just dismantling the what it means to be a leader previously, and focusing on aligning ourselves before we focus on achieving anything else, and then putting that bold yes out there and really moving into action as a leader.
Yes, people, stop whining and count your blessings. Why is it reinvention necessary for women to lead authentically? What outdated models must be dismantled?
Yeah, and I don't think it's a man or a woman thing. I think it's a lot of times in our careers we think, we're an individual contributor and we have to move into a manager, then a director, and then a VP. And I'm just using this as an example. I think a lot of times understanding the why are we wanting to be a manager? Is that the right fit for us? Or are we better as an individual contributor? So I think what we need to focus on is really what makes us the happiest. What are our gifts that we are good at, and then bringing those gifts forward into the world, and really understanding what those gifts are. A lot of times when I talk to leaders, they end up in jobs just because they got the job. They may or may not be happy in those roles. They may not, be an extroverted person and they're in a sales role, or they may be forced to do things that they're not necessarily enjoying in their career. So really dismantling that and finding something that's based on what lights you up on the inside, and bringing that forward in your career, and finding the right matches, not just for the company, but for you as well.
What does, on your own terms, practically look like when navigating male-dominated industry or rigid corporate structures?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I've never really looked at it. I've, historically worked, started my career in banking, moved into civil and environmental engineering. I've worked in casino gaming and technology and cybersecurity, most of which I was often the only female, but I never kind of saw it that way. I really learned how to live both in my masculine and my feminine, not just show up a certain way in the world today. Melissa 20 years ago showed up very quiet, very uncomfortable speaking her mind. She didn't want to be judged. She wanted to be liked. And not that I don't want to be liked today. I think the way I show up is very authentic and very honest and very transparent. And I think there's a different way to show up, both for men and both for women, to get the best out of a team. We each have different skills, and bringing those around the table is really key for businesses.
Miss Melissa, how do Renaissance women balance staying true to themselves while strategically navigating systems not built for them?
I love this question. I think most of what I hear from mothers and women that are in executive roles is they don't have enough time for them. They, wake up, get their family ready, go to work, get their kids home, make dinner. I really show up in my days centered in what I need to do each and every day. So I start with me first, because me first has to be grounded and centered and clear on what I'm doing in the day. So I have to really work towards a plan. Otherwise, I get to the end of the day with no time. So I start my day with a plan, the things I need to tackle. I get my writing in, my exercise in, my healthy meals, and then I start my day and I look at it with a plan in mind versus starting in fight or flight or answering my phone and responding to everything that's happening at me. I really lead my day versus my day leading you. It's a totally different way of working through your day. So I'm not constantly looking at my emails. I'm not constantly answering my text messages. I'm really focused on what I need to achieve and what's most important at that time.
How does your framework address the unique reinvention journeys of women of color, LGBTQ plus, women, or those with disabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that all of us have a different perspective to bring to the table. And I think men, women, um, LGBTQ, all different perspectives, and how what happens when we all come to the table is there's certain experiences women have in their career that men just don't have, and there's certain experiences men have that women don't have, and there's certain experiences culturally with other countries that I've worked with across the globe. Women don't get the same roles as the men do, and understanding that perspective is really key in working across the world. And so what it looks like is showing up authentically as you and aligning with where you are. So let's give an example. So say you're in an organization that has over and over told you that they're not going to promote you, they don't see you as a management fit. It's your choice whether you stay or whether you go, just as if you're being unfairly treated wherever you're working or being discriminated against by the way you look. It's completely up to you to stay or to go. And so, step one is sitting down and having the open and honest dialogue. Step two is collecting the information and then deciding if it's the right fit for you, on whether you stay or whether you go.
Miss Melissa, let's talk about the practical reinvention and strategy of your upcoming book. How can women identify their unique superpowers as a strategic asset, not weakness?
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's important to understand who we are, what our strengths are, what we're good at, and then build a team of people around us that pick up the slack in areas we're not the best at. And what that looks like is first understanding what you're good at, who you are, and then building a tactical plan around where you're weak and you may need additional support. And so that could be something for me, like I am a lot of times terrible at the mass amounts of emails I get. So I often have help and support to make sure I'm getting back to all my emails. And so I get support in that area, but I'm very focused and grounded in other areas. So I know that I'm not the fastest response in email. And so I look to get support in that area and find systems and processes and people to help me support that area. So what it looks like is first knowing who you are, understanding the strengths you bring and really what you like to do and get the most joy out of. And then building a team around you to support the areas that maybe you're not the strongest in.
How do you help women reclaim ambition beyond hustle culture, aligning goals with purpose, joy, or legacy?
Yeah, I think we all live in the hustle culture right now.
Yes.
We all are like bigger and more and faster. Um, this morning I ordered a package to my doorstep and in less than 2 hours I got the package. We're so used to having what we need right away. And so I think it's really important to understand that hustle is also a choice. It's also important to look at the boundaries we're putting in our life and how it affects our health. There's no sense in having wealth if you're trading your wealth for your health. So it's really important to focus first on your health. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you happy where you're at? Are you in the right groups? Are you with the right people? And then building a plan in areas that may need support. I often talk a lot, Daniel, about work life integration and finding ways to gain back time in your week. So, whether that's subscribing to a food service so you don't have to spend 3 hours going to the grocery store, preparing meals, cleaning up the meals, to find little ways that you can gain back some of the time for yourself to do the things that really light you up the most. So, hustle culture is real. It's out there. We see it all the time, more, faster, quicker. But I really encourage people to figure out, what are they hustling for? Why are we hustling? What are the goals? What is on the other side of the rainbow, as I like to say? But really understand why and not trade your health um, for the wealth and then have to trade it back the other way.
Very well said, Miss Melissa. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. Share a story of a woman who radically reinvented her leadership path. What was her catalyst and what can others learn from it?
Oh gosh, I can think of so many of them. I'm trying to pick one. I think it's interesting. I don't talk about my immediate family very much, but I often think about my grandmother who, um, during her time, women weren't executives. There weren't seats at the table for her in her career. And so my grandfather had chose a career where he became an entrepreneur to support her career. Um, and then he went to war, and she ended up having to trade her career in fashion and to um, stay home with the family and find other ways to support her family. And so she consistently changed who she was becoming as life happened to her, whether it was my grandfather went to war or they had some financial setbacks. She did what it took to feed her family, to take care of her family. My grandmother was the youngest of 12, so she really learned how to make things work, not only by being a younger sister, but really taking life as it came at her. And I think that's the one thing that I respected the most about her is she was always looking at life and taking it on as it came to her versus creating and acting like a victim to things that happened to her. She lost several of her siblings to um, different outbreaks, war, and through all of that, she ended up becoming a parent to her family and her older siblings as they were healing. And so I think what I take away from that is we have a choice in our life. All of us are going to go through really difficult, trying, emotional times where we're scared to make a jump, we're scared to make a leap, we don't know what to do next. And I think what I always tell people is to lean into the struggle because there's always a positive something to come out of whatever happens to us. And sometimes we can't see it. I think I always try to look at the positive and all the difficult things that have happened to me. And I think I learned a lot of that from my upbringing, from my grandmother.
Yes, be positive, people. Be optimistic always. Miss Melissa, as the host of Executive Connect as well as upcoming author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Those are great questions. One of the things why I even started this podcast, Danielle, originally was all about giving younger people or people in all different phases of their life the tools and the network to get to wherever they needed to get. I found often in my career younger, I didn't have all the tools that I needed to get to the next step. So whether it was in I made the money and what do I do with it after I make made it, or whether I pivoted my career or had imposter syndrome or mindset questions. The whole point of the podcast was to support the next generation of leaders. So, short term goals, every time I do a podcast, it's always just to help one person do one thing and to take a step in their life. And long term goals, the podcast has actually started to build into more things, more workshops, more local gatherings in Austin and other parts of the United States and world. And so I do long term, will continue to curate experiences and workshops to support leaders wherever they are in their journey.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Melissa, and looking forward for more success so that you will empower our generation to generations to come. And what will be your piece of advice for those people that want to be a podcast host as well as an author too?
Oh, wow. Let's see. There's so many things I've learned being a podcast. Schedule, schedule, schedule. Get very organized is like number one thing I would suggest to anybody looking at doing a podcast and really asking themselves why are they doing it. So it's labor intensive. It's time and labor and money, all the things. It's like a second job or a second child. So make sure you're grounded in your why you're doing it, and get scheduled. Make sure you keep a tight schedule. And this is actually my first book, Daniel, that I am. It launches officially in October. Um, early purchase of the book starts September 2nd. Excited to officially call myself an author, Daniel. I know I've been talking about it for over 20 years. It's finally happening. So stick to your goals.
Yes, congratulations, Miss Melissa, for doing that. Congratulations. And we are hoping for more and more empowering books like this, most especially for women. Let's empower women all over the world. So, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn. I love a lot of his teachings, his lessons. And one of the books that's always resonated with me is The Seasons of Life. it's a very short read, and it's all about the way we look at our life. There's different seasons where we need to pull back and really harvest, and there's seasons that are more growth seasons. So I look at my life. Some seasons have lasted a year. As it pertains to my book, I've had many seasons waiting to be an author. So don't get impatient as you grow. We're all just learning experiencing, feeling humans trying to do our best job. So just realize sometimes it's just a season and you may need more than one or many seasons to get through the tough time.
Yes, learning and growing, people, and don't afraid to commit mistakes or failure because you will learn from them. You will be for sure better, best, or excellent in the future. And Miss Melissa, thank you for that recommended book as well as your advice, and good luck to your goals as well. What is your framework for negotiating authority, compensation, or boundaries without mimicking aggressive stereotypes like men do?
Well, that's a really great question, and that's a lot to unpack. But I will say, know what you're worth. Know who you are and what you're worth, and bring it to the table. I think a lot of times, I just wrote this recently in a Success magazine article I wrote. Everything is so transactional anymore in our world. Everything is, a this for a that. When you're looking for a promotion or a raise or whatever it may be in negotiation, you have to first understand what you're offering. And sometimes you have to realize that you may have to give more before you take more. And so, really understanding that, and negotiation is finding a way that both people win, not one person wins more than the other. It's finding a way that everybody walks away happy.
Definitely. And Miss Melissa, how do Renaissance women reframe fraud feelings as evidence of growth and uncharted territory?
How do they sorry, say that one more time. How do they refrain from growth?
Yes. How do Renaissance women reframe fraud feelings as evidence of growth and uncharted territory?
I think feelings are great. They're important that you understand all of your feelings, whether man, woman, your feelings matter. If you're sad or you're mad, they're all important to understand. They're guideposts to giving you clues of how you're feeling, your gut. So if you're feeling a certain emotion, understanding why you're feeling that emotion and unpacking it for yourself. I use a lot of my emotions and my gut in everything I do, whether it's personally or professionally. It's been a silver lining for me personally and professionally.
Very well said again, Miss Melissa. Very well said. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in each fourth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Melissa, what's the first step for a woman feeling stuck to start reinventing her leadership story?
Pen and paper every morning, no matter what. Writing down and getting clear on what leadership means to you. So whether that means your career, your personal life, writing it down. There's something to be said about pen on paper, and I've been writing on pen and paper since I could write, setting goals, thinking through things, making a pro and con list, and I get a lot of the answers on as I write that down. So if you're sitting in a place where you're questioning, should I stay, should I go, or I want to rise in my career, I want to find a significant other, putting pen and paper and figuring out what am I looking for in a partner? What are those 10 things? What am I looking for in a job? What are those 10 things? And really getting clear about what you want for you, not worrying about, you know, your kids or your job or whatever other things one would worry about when setting goals. Getting clear and then going after it and taking one step and then one more step. And I know it's scary and I know it's hard, but just taking a step in the right direction, a door will open, and then take one more and another door will open. And then maybe that goal you set is not the goal you wanted. And you're like, oh, maybe I don't like that. And then you make another decision and another goal. But the most important piece is taking that one first step.
One first step. Miss Melissa Aarskaug, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast and, of course, your upcoming book?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is called the Executive Connect Podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn through our website. And the book should be coming out, as I mentioned, in September for early order. So I'd love to connect with you and share leadership tips and tricks.
Yes, please do come over, Miss Melissa, and again, let's talk about your book once you publish it. Yes, people, let's support Miss Melissa Aarskaug because we support her for sure. More and more and more empowering episode of the podcast itself. More and more empowering books for women for sure and leadership. So, Miss Melissa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.